Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in Senior English. We are now turning to Wilfred Owen's classic Dulce et Decorum Est, one of the great poems written by a soldier about the horrors of war. Let's introduce ourselves real quickly to Wilfred Owen. I'm reading with you on page 85. His dates, 1893 to 1918, one of the most memorable poets of World War I. He had always wanted to be a poet, and his experience as a soldier gave him his voice. He was a teacher when he enlisted in the British Army in 1915. He experienced shell shock and was sent back to England. While in the hospital there, he met a fellow poet, Siegfried Sassoon, who we've given lectures on at LearnStrong.net as well, who encouraged him to explore his war experiences in poetry. Owen returned to the front, eventually earning the Military Cross for his courage. He was killed tragically in a battle in 1918. Let's get some background information for Dulce et Decorum Est. Great Britain had no propaganda machine at the beginning of World War I, but British schoolboys had long been exposed to the idea that it was a noble thing to die for one's country. We think about the Tennyson poem, Charge of the Light Brigade. They studied the Latin poet Horace, who had written that death for one's country is, quote, sweet and honorable, end quote. British war heroes were venerated. The reality of war, however, contradicted the subtle propaganda of the schoolroom. The sheer misery of life in the trenches and the unconscionable loss of a generation of young men revealed the underlying reality. And of course, at 3A already, we can write down All Quiet on the Western Front as a classic example that it wasn't just the British young boys who were influenced by this kind of thinking. It was, in fact, the Germans as well. We can also write down the great American writer Stephen Crane in his Red Badge of Courage. We've given lectures on these texts at LearnStrong.net. The idea that when you read the great Greek hero epic poems, as we think of as well the Anglo-Saxon poem Beowulf, we're challenged to think about war as being something heroic, something that allows young men especially to prove themselves. We're going to get in Wilfred Owen's poem here a different view, a more cynical view, maybe a more honest view of war. We'll listen to our professional reader read along now, and we'll come back to annotate.
Dulce et Decorum Est by Wilfred Owen. Bent double like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep, many had lost their boots, but limped on bloodshod. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of tired, outstripped 5-9s that dropped behind us. Gas, gas, quick boys, an ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. But someone still was yelling out and stumbling and floundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim, through the misty panes and thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face, like a devil sick of sin. If you could hear, at every jolt, the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud of vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues. My friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory the old lie, Dulce et Decorum Est, pro patria mori.
Now, the poem is obviously disturbing on a number of counts. It's an honest telling of a single moment in an experience of horror. Notice that the poem is divided up into its 4 stanzas, with the third stanza being that very short one, and then the last stanza being spoken directly to someone who would want to celebrate the idea of young men and and of course large numbers of women died in the First World War as well, who will be sent off to die. Notice, let's just begin at 2b because we often like to start there. Notice all of the similes, comparisons using like or as. Notice like old beggars, like hags. Notice as under a green sea, like a man in fire or lime. The attempt to try like a devil sick of sin, the attempt to try to compare one thing to another. The challenge, of course, is to build an image in the mind that is not so easily forgotten. Many readers of this poem will say, that last stanza sticks with me long after I've read it because it's a powerful image of a corpse in a wagon with other dead bodies, and the person, the speaker of the poem, is walking behind and looking at it. Of course, what is the major message of a poem like this at 2a? Well, it's right there at the conclusion. Don't tell me how amazing and glorious war is. That is to say, Horace didn't know what he was talking about. Rather, war is everything else that's being described here. Of course, the use of mustard gas during the First World War, horrific, leads to the death of a man who can't get his mask on quick enough. You have an image on page 88 to give you a sense of what that looked like. And then notice how the death of this man to gas will remain in the dreams of our speaker. Post-traumatic stress syndrome is, of course, very serious, and many who are involved in witnessing the horrors of war struggle upon return to ever have normal lives again. Notice at the end, we're told at line 25, my friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children, the use of the word children, ardent, that is to say passionate, for some desperate glory. He calls it the old lie. Now this one comes from Horace's Odes, and it is, in translation there for your footnote, it is sweet and honorable to die for one's country. Wilfred Owen has his speaker say, I'm not sure you'd share that view if you actually saw what I saw. Of course, note the irony and the power of this poem. The reader has seen it, has seen the image through words. You know, we sometimes say about great poems, you need to show, not tell. This poem, of course, does both, but it's a powerful showing of what it looks like. To join this poem, of course, at 3a now, to the Mary Bowden poem that we just worked with, The Song of the Mud, you can obviously see how both of these poems draw pictures of war that are absolute hell. Notice there's no glorifying any of the experiences that are being described here. They're horrifying, and yet at the same time, obviously, both of these poems speak to the tremendous sacrifice of those who were involved in the First World War. As we finish now with this one, obviously at 3a you can jot down any number of titles that come to mind. What is for you the text that most powerfully reminds you that war is horrific? It doesn't glorify war at all, but rather shows the disturbing elements. Many have seen Oliver Stone's Platoon, a film of some time ago, as being symptomatic of this. The first 20 minutes of Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan comes to mind, no question. Finally, at 3b, what do you do with a poem like this? How do you make any meaning of a poem like this? Is it in fact sweet and honorable to die for one's country? And how do you balance that notion or that sentiment with a poem like this one? That is to say, that calls into question the idea that so many young men died, sacrificed, and for what? The questions of the First World War would loom great as the Second World War, of course, began. And still today, we live with these questions, no doubt. Where do you come down on that? You can maybe do a bit of writing yourself on that one. Thank you.